how do visualization magicians, so these experts, how do they transform raw data into narratives that resonate with people's emotions and intellect?
Well, it greatly depends on the designer. Because as I said before, I group all these designers into sort of like different beans in the book. I mean, I call some people the pragmatists, some people I call them the eccentrics. Then I have the ambassadors, and then I have the narrators. And each type of person in the book approaches data and data visualization in a different way, and with different goals and different expectations and different motivations. So the eccentrics, for example, are designers who appear in the book that try to push the boundaries of what is acceptable, quotation marks in there, acceptable in data visualization. They try to innovate, they try to create new graphic forms, new way to display the data, experiment with the form, and they often create data visualizations that don't really have any sort of, let's say, analytical purpose. They just want to create things that look nice and interesting and evocative in some senses, poetic in some senses as well. Then the ambassadors are people who are perhaps a little bit more similar to you and I, people who are interested in using data visualization as a means towards a broader goal, which is to educate people about scientific thinking, about data literacy, and so on and so forth. And the narrators are the ones who are closest to my own career, because they're mostly journalists, people who communicate with a data visualization. So each designer in the book has a slightly different method to create data visualizations. Broadly speaking, all of them follow the same path of I try to understand the data, then I try to find the main insights from the data, and then I try to select those insights and create something that highlights those insights. But then the purposes are completely different. And beyond those very basic elements of a process, each one of these designers have a different way of doing things.
Very cool. Yeah. And so you might have to break this down again, I guess, by category potentially. But something that comes up in the first chapter, which is called On Magic, um, how does data visualization act as a reflective practice for the designers as well? So it's more than just creating a narrative; it's also about reflection, and so this influences their personal growth and their worldview.
Yep, and their thinking in general. This is something that I sometimes explain to my students when I teach visualization. That I see visualization very similarly to how I see writing in many senses. Obviously, I have written plenty of books and articles, but I don't write books only because I want to communicate something. I write books because I want to understand that something better. And one of the best ways to try to understand something better is to try to teach it,
A
and,
hundred
and,
percent.
and to try to systematically write about it. That's how you organize your thoughts. That process of self reflection is also true of data visualization. You can only visualize something well if you understand that thing well. And one of the best ways to understand it well is to visualize it, to try to visualize it. And at the same time, people who appear in the book sometimes use the sheer process of designing visualizations as something that is similar to meditation for some reason. They get so deeply into the design that, and several of these designers describe these, and I have experienced it myself. You enter in a state of flow. You forget
Hmm.
about completely about the world, and you immerse yourself into the work completely to the point in which your sort of like conscience disappears for quite a while. It's a pretty interesting process.